some briefing. It's great to see, I can't see everybody, but it's great to see so many faces on the call. And if you're new, if this is your first one of these briefings, then welcome aboard. We're glad to have you as part of the team. And hopefully, this will be interesting and enjoyable. In the briefing, you're going to hear from myself and you're going to hear from other members of the extended leadership team, just how we're doing as an organisation and what we're trying to work on and how well we're working together. As always, for those that have been on this before, this is the first step. So we do this as an all-colleague briefing, some of our members and volunteers this time as well. But it really starts a series of discussions. So your director or your head of will pick this up. If you haven't been invited to a discussion meeting yet, you'll get that invite sort of quite quickly. And we really use it. We use it to inform our decision making. It does all get fed back, and we discuss it as an extended leadership team. So really, really important that you take part in those discussions and you let us know what.
Simon, you've just gone on mute there, Lee, at least.
Don't know what happened then. Thank you for pointing that out. Some people would say that was a blessing, but we're back on, and hopefully you can hear me. If you've got any questions during today's briefing, we've got the Q&A tool, which is right next to the normal chat tool, something that we're trying for this briefing. So again, if you've got any questions, put them in there. There's a tool then that people can put a thumbs up and like the question, and as we get the more popular questions, we'll try and pick those off towards the end of the briefing. So again, let's get straight into it. I don't know what it's like where you are today, but it's quite a nice morning here, a bit windy, a bit fresh. But I've got my WEA brew, so we'll give it a go. So I wanted to start by just framing, that external piece and talking about the need that we all know and understand. We know our wider context. We know that poverty and social inequality are long-standing challenges in the UK. We also know they've been brought into sharp focus really over recent years. The combination of the pandemic, political turmoil at home and abroad, and all those other socio-economic factors have really made it quite difficult for a huge number of people living in the UK. We are in a cost of living crisis. People are struggling to meet even their essentials of heating, food, and it's hitting the poorest in the country. And what we know from, and everybody on this call knows from countless sort of studies and research papers, is that low income and poverty are closely aligned with low levels of academic achievement or qualifications. And it's a real vicious circle. And that's where we come in. Our job is to try and break that circle. We all know on this call that adult education is a lifeline, that it's vital in breaking that cycle, and it gives learners opportunities, both to make friends, to build confidence, to get that wider community connection, and then for some, to get into a better job or to kickstart their careers. And we do it in that unique WEA way. We do it in local communities and now online. We are truly a hybrid provider in our 120th year. And we do it in a way, we adopt a teaching and learning approach that, is different from every other provider really, and gives learners, adult learners, that confidence that they're not just stepping back into a formal classroom environment that they may have had a bad experience of. So there's something really unique about the way we do things at the WEA, and we should hold on to that. We also know that there's an issue with social mobility. The government's own Social Mobility Commission last week published a State of the Nation report, and it considered how education, how important education is in creating conditions for social mobility. You can see this quote on the screen. And it does acknowledge that, one size doesn't fit all. And we're going to keep, reminding both government and opposition parties of this report. It's not just us that say this. It's not just us that realise that a number of different ranges of support are needed. Every report that comes out says the same thing. So we're going to keep using that to remind policymakers of that. And that wider political context is important as well. You know, the Department for Education remains sort of the most important body for adult education, but in recent years, as you all know, the rise of mayoral combined authorities and devolution means that they've grown in prominence. We're about 50-50 now in terms of our funding, so 50% directly from national government, DFE, through the ESFA, but 50% almost coming through the devolved authorities in England as well now. And we know that both major parties, in fact, all three parties, are in favour of greater devolution. So that will carry on. That direction of travel will carry on. So in 24-25, we'll also see devolved deals down to county level. So in county deals such as Norfolk, Suffolk, maybe Cornwall, we'll see those devolution of the adult education budgets get more and more local. And that makes it increasingly difficult for us to manage those relationships, to make sure that we are really on the ground and those local decision makers, policy makers, funders understand what we do and why we do it. Also in 2024, there'll be 8 mayoral elections. So mayors being elected for the first time in North Yorkshire, East Midlands, which is known as D2N2, and a wider North East mayoral authority as well, so wider than the current North of Tyne. And then there's a small matter of a general election, probably. It has to happen no later than 2025. But I think most commentators feel like a May or October 2024 is probably when that'll take place. And we already know that there are 80 MPs not standing for re-election. So whatever happens, whatever the outcome of the election, there's a massive change in terms of MPs and policy making. That's both a challenge and an opportunity for us, and we will keep engaging with those political decision makers, both at a national level, and I would encourage you locally as well. You'll have those local contacts. You'll know who's standing in your own constituency. Make sure you bang in the drum for the WEA, that they know who we are and the difference that we can make. So if we look as well at policy today, and there's a couple of pictures on the screen that people might recognise the faces, lifelong learning was, and it is, a priority for the current government. The pandemic probably disrailed that a little bit, but there's still that major white paper, skills for jobs, and that was wrote into legislation in 2021, and that's set the scene since, really. As its title suggests, the whole emphasis of the current government approach is on employability and employment outcomes, and they set these frameworks up to give employers much more of a say. And what we see, unfortunately, in that is that there is an assumption made that actually the only valuable thing is a level 3 qualification in relevant subject matter areas. And, we lurch from crisis to crisis. So it was HGV drivers, and then it'll be somebody else. And this, constant sort of refrain that anything below level 3 is not worth the paper it's written on. And we have to keep challenging that. We have to challenge, and we did make the case for why the broader impacts of community adult education, including health and well-being, that community improvement and that community cohesion that we know our work creates. So we won it to an extent in that, and those frameworks in the new funding and accountability, it's been recognised that improvements to health and well-being, community cohesion are valid outcomes for community learning, and that learning below level 3 certainly has a value, a massive value, across all our communities. But unfortunately, on this screen, that's not a view shared by everybody. So our Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan MP, is not as keen on that approach, but we'll keep making the case. It's a bit of an issue for us. I hope she doesn't swear at me next time I meet with her, but we'll keep making the case for why that's true. And we work hard on that. They've also been really clear, if we won that little battle about health and well-being being a desired outcome, they're also really clear in the new rules that they won't fund what they're calling leisure learning. We've got no detail yet on what they mean by leisure learning, but it's a real clear statement that they believe some types of learning that go on in the adult community environment aren't worth state funding. Now, we'll challenge that. We'll be able to challenge it once we see what their definition is, but it's a real issue for us. We have got some advocates. Robert Halfon's on the screen as well there. He does champion community learning in general, and he's a massive advocate for the WEA. You know, he comes to our events in Parliament. He speaks fondly of seeing WEA classes in his own constituency. So we'll keep going. We'll keep trying to inform those decision makers. And then we've got a similar challenge in Scotland as well. Ray's on the call. Ray's obviously helped write this briefing with me, and more than happy to answer any specific questions on Scotland. Whilst looking from England, it might look quite stable in Scotland. Actually, what that is, and what Ray tells us, is there's a little bit of inertia creeping in. Same sort of challenges. There's been a big turnover in faces, in different ministers, so priorities have changed, your policies have changed. There was four reviews on the go at the moment, and you can see them listed on the screen. You know, so you've got the Withers review, which is looking at skills in Scotland, which is similar to what's happening in England. You've got reforms being sort of suggested to Education Scotland and their qualification agency. So again, similar parallels with, you know, what's the role of Ofsted in England. And then, you know, the final two, there's been a purpose and principles review, which, you know, Ray tells me is a nice title, but, you know, where are we going with that? And then finally, that, you know, the adult learning strategy for Scotland, we were really, and I know Ray worked really hard with the team up there to influence that. I think we were quite hopeful of the direction of travel that you know, that could create. But again, the changes in political nature, the changes in political decision makers means that that's a little bit stalled as well. And there's certainly no more new money for it as the pressure comes on Scotland budgets, the same as it does across the English regions as well. So again, Ray's more than happy to answer any questions either on this briefing or as part of the wider discussions, but similar challenges, I think, in Scotland. Finally, from me, before I hand over to Katie, just to bring all of that external context now back to us and back to our mission. You all know our mission. You can see it on the screen. It is to bring adult education within reach of everybody who needs it. And by doing that, we are fighting inequality and promoting social justice. It's where our passion lies. It's where our motivation lies. And we're good at it. We are good at it. You know, it's at the very heart of what we do and why we come to work, I think. Everybody on this call gets that. I know it's been a really challenging time in terms of trying to adapt to that external environment, further devolution, pressure on budgets, changing political policies and decision making. We've had to adapt our own systems and processes. And I know we're only halfway through that. I know it's been painful. I know it's been frustrating, but it absolutely is necessary for us. You know, I think we forget that when I joined 3 years ago, the first steer I got from everybody was that WEMIS was working against us. It wasn't, we were doing the job with one or two hands tied behind our back. So we're really trying to address that. It's painful in the moment, it's painful in the change, but actually it will be worth it. You know, I know it's been frustrating, but stick with it. You know, we showed through the pandemic what we can achieve when we act as one WEA. We absolutely rolled our sleeves up, got stuck in and made it work for our learners. You know, they were at the centre of what we did and they remain at the centre of what we do. So thanks for your patience on the systems and processes change. We'll talk a little bit more about it through this briefing. But, you know, let's remember that, you know, we are sometimes at our best when the going gets tough. So stick together with each other. Let's stay together as one WEA and rise to that challenge so that we can carry on making a massive difference to both those individual learners and the communities that they thrive in, really. So thank you. Thanks for that. Hopefully that's giving you an opening sort of context. I'm going to pass over to Katie. We'll talk a bit more about the organisational responses now, and then I'll come back at the end and try and do any questions and answers.
Hello everyone, for those who don't know me, I'm Katie Easy, I'm the Director of Education for Community Learning. So our strategy, hopefully this slide, which includes a snapshot of our strategy, isn't new to anybody. You'll notice that our three objectives on the left, which are learning for life, learning for work and learning the builds communities. All of our curriculum should deliver against these three objectives and all are equally important parts of our strategy. But rather than letting me tell you, we'd like to illustrate this through our learners. So if we start with Learning for Life, Learning for Life courses support the health and the well-being and the independence of our learners. And that could be courses through through courses things like house budgeting to cooking 101, and it also includes ESOL learners like Shamim. So Shamim barely spoke any English when he arrived in the UK in 2004. In Bangladeshi communities, it isn't widely accepted for men to study English. But after his wife fell ill in 2016, it was essential for Shamim to learn English. Not only was that really important, so he could negotiate health appointments, but he was also now the main parental contact for school for his daughters. So after signing up for an ESOL course, he quickly passed his level 1 and then he enrolled on his level 2. Not only did his English skills improve, but he also felt a really big shift in his mental well-being as he no longer had to rely on others to translate. So with Misbah's expert help, we'll show you a quick video.
Without English, life is very hard. So my wife had a brain hemorrhage. She went gave birth to my little baby. That time that make it that happened. I learned English, improve my English. Then I easily look after my family. The course make my English very improved, and especially thanks to my teacher Chadni Chaudhary, because my language and my teacher language Bengali, which sentence I don't understand, then I request to my teacher, and my teacher explain my own language, then I catch that easily. I think anybody join the course improve the English, the course, and easy life, live to easy life.
Thanks, Misbah. Oh. And then next we have Learning for Work. Learning for Work courses help our learners to unleash their true potential, and it equips them with the skills they need for employment. Now that includes things like English and maths and functional skills, but also volunteering courses and skills targeted at particular jobs and sector areas like health and social care and education. So the next video we're going to show you is a group of learners who've been studying to move into the education sector.
I'm Molly Funke.
I'm Claire.
And I'm Emma, and we've won the Learners Group Awards.
I mean, I was at playgroup one day and they sort of mentioned that there was some courses going. I had a look and I saw that it was for working in early years, so I made the application and that's where it started.
And my learning journey started from when I was doing a level 2 and I've just progressed onto a level 3.
I saw the letter through my through my email from a nursery. So I applied, passed the assessment. It has been a great journey for me.
Well, it's a bit hard for us to say because obviously we don't know what other people saw in us. I can only assume that it is the way we all interacted, the way we all had time for each other. You know, there was never no one ever was negative about anybody else's comments. It's all very, very much positive.
It was like a cold, collective, together, all of us all together, and we was all putting in our own levels of knowledge,
Yeah.
and yeah, we just worked as a team to accomplish that.
Keep up with the assignments, submit on time, and then that's it.
It made you feel like you weren't doing it on your own. So even when it wasn't online, or if we'd managed to communicate with each other outside of the online lessons, you always felt you had others to fall back on, more, you know, some enthusiasm, and then just in general, we all felt a group. It was nice. I mean, shocked at first, but the way that the group has integrated and the way we've all been with each other, not surprising.
I didn't even thought of there's going to be any award. I didn't know if there's going to be any. When I saw it, I said, oh, for the first time, I won an award. Yeah, and we're going to the House of Lords.
You know, it was a good group. Everyone got on, everyone interacted well, and it just, it made it a whole pleasant experience. It's great.
Thanks, Misbah. Obviously, that group were the winners of the WEA Learner Group Award. They were nominated because they had to complete placement hours, and they all found their own placements by approaching early years settings. Their level of research and knowledge and understanding of early years practice really impressed their tutor, and they've since either volunteered in early years settings or found paid employment. And 2 learners in the wider group that they were in who were already in paid employment were given a promotion once their certificate arrived. Now, I like this video, and I've met these learners, and they're so passionate about it. It brings out what's really special about us, and it's that ability to create an environment where our learners thrive and they help themselves and they help one another. And I think that dynamic is really key. And I think for these learners who were online, I think one of the first times they met was when they did that video, and they'd not met previously, but they were really close. And I think that's really indicative of what we do as an organisation. Finally, we have learning that builds communities, and that's all about learning which inspires passions, brings people together to discuss, to debate, and to learn areas of common interest. Learners give as much as they can take, and they're encouraged to do the same within their communities, and we really encourage that volunteering approach. Our learning networks bring those communities together, and we want those vibrant and inclusive communities that promote health and happiness and success, both at an individual level, but also at that wider community level. So we're going to illustrate that with an example about Jane. So Jane first learned WEA during lockdown, and in this video she's going to share how her course has helped her after her husband became ill and she became his full-time carer. She had continued to attend classes to learn, but also because she just needed that place to be around others and socialise. And she enjoyed the course so much that she began sharing her skills with others, and she went on to win a Community Contribution Award. So we'll now move to her video.
Everything I've learnt, really, if I can share it, I'll be sharing it. All the stitching and the beading and things like that that I've learnt are going into the recovery coat that I'm making. A recent project by POUR, or Portraits of Recovery, which was about mending, was actually funded by the WEA, and I did my Skillshare doing sashiko and borrow and visible mending. That was full circle. I'd learnt those skills with the WEA and then was sharing them on a project that was funded by the WEA, and it just felt so right.
Thank you, Misbah. And again, I've met Jane, and she was just so enthusiastic and passionate about what she did and continues to do. So our work is guided by that understanding of the need which exists in society, which Simon talked about earlier, and where adult education can help. The need in the UK is becoming more urgent, but we're also making an impact. Now on the screen, you can see some of the statistics of the need and the impact we are making. So 43% of our employed learners reported increased earnings, 67% of unemployed learners knew better what to do in order to get a job after learning with us. Please just think about what that means for our learners: more independence, more economic opportunity, and moving further away from poverty. And we can also show ways in which would impress the government, such as the fact that 45% of learners who were unemployed prior to studying with us had stopped claiming benefits 6 months later. It shows the longitudinal impact of education, and sometimes it's not the short wins, it's the long game, and that's really important for us. But education is not just for employment, it's also for mental and physical health and community. We recognise and we value the effect that learning can have on health and well-being, for example, as you can see on the slide. So 55% of learners with a mental health condition feel that the course helped with their mental health. 45% of learners telling us that learning with us helped them to make friends. And we can also say that 92% of our learners made fewer visits to their GP than the national average. And that's a statistic that often impresses government stakeholders. As Simon shared, our mission is critical and our guiding light. This is proof that we're moving in the right direction and why some of those moments of frustration are so worth it. Now I'll hand over to Sean for a view of how we're all doing. Thank you.
Morning all. For those who haven't met me yet, my name's Sean Tyndall. I'm the new Finance Director. So I've worked extensively in the charity sector for my whole career, big charities like Maincap and Groundwork. So I joined at the end of August, still getting to grips with everything. It's complicated, but I've built up a good picture of where we're at. So I think financially we're in a good position, and that's important to say. And that means we're in a good position to face the challenges that are ahead of us. So let's start by looking at the finances in a little bit more detail. So this slide shows our financial outturn. So a simple slide, but it's our position at year end. So There'll be some small changes. The audit's happening as we speak, but the position won't change dramatically, or at least it shouldn't. So what it shows is at the end of the year, we've made a small EBITDA surplus of just over £500,000, and that's against the budget of just under £500,000. So this surplus goes towards covering our pension liability and our depreciation. So it's not sort of free money to do what we want with it. We also stuck tight to our digital transformation budget, which came out of our reserves. But our reserves remain in a healthy position. So I've mentioned the term EBITDA, and I don't want to get too technical on anybody, but that means earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. It's important because it's one of the three measures that the ESFA use to determine our financial health as an organisation. So alongside borrowing and solvency, which we get full scores for because we don't have much borrowing, EBITDA is the other important measure. If we weren't to deliver a positive EBITDA, our rating would go down to satisfactory almost straight away, and that would mean a light would be shined upon us, which wouldn't be altogether favourable. So it's important that we do return a positive number there. I think as well, some other good things this year include our growth of multiplier income, which is great. But I think, if I'm honest with you all, a significant factor in balancing our books this year has been that we've taught less learners than we planned. And that means our direct course costs have also been lower than expected. So the next slide shows learner numbers over time. So we managed to stay above levels where grants and contracts could be clawed back, but we can't afford to repeat this. It's not good financially, but it's not good in terms of us delivering impact to less people. So it goes back to what Simon said about our mission. That's not living up to our mission. But you can see the trend here over time. It reflects a sector-wide drop in adult education participation. So the Learning and Work Institute run a study every year on adult participation in education. And for 10 years, it's shown a decline, mainly as a result of government funding policy. So this is not just our challenge, but it is our challenge if we're to live up to our ambition to bring education within reach of those who need it. So we're doing better than the sector as a whole, and that's great, but we need to be ambitious. And we don't want to wait for further reductions in student numbers when the government stops funding for leisure learners, although that definition, as Simon said, is a bit vague at the moment. But what we do need to do is find ways of making good value learning available to those who can afford to pay, but also bringing enough money to subsidise those who cannot afford to pay. And that second bit is crucial. So we know that some of our learners are struggling with the new website. And just like we've done before, we need to help those who are less digitally able. But this trend started before our change of systems. And that's not to say we can afford to ignore learner feedback. And we're looking at ways to create different web journeys for our different learners. So one positive of late is the ESFA have given us the opportunity to take a risk-based approach on whether we ask those learners who will not be subsidised by the public purse, whether we need to ask for the same information we do for those who are. So in short, it gives us a big opportunity to simplify our course booking process for these learners. Now, the next slide shows some learner data for August. I think there's been some concern about enrolment so far this year. So here's the data as returned in our ILR this month in comparison to last year. So we've not hit our figures for community learning, but we're doing well on skills. And the gap is one that can be addressed in the time that we have. The leadership team keeping a close eye on this and how we're doing. We'll be reviewing a new dashboard every month, and that's the extended leadership team. And we'll share the headlines with you via the staff home intranet going forward. Our digital transformation is gradually providing us with much more accessible management information. But as Simon said, it's important to acknowledge that the transition has been painful at times and continues to be, but it is absolutely the right system for us. But how we're doing is not just about our recruitment, it's just as much about the quality of the learning experience we provide. So the final slide from me is one about quality. So PRIA has recently shared these stats with our education committee. So these figures are correct as of 2 weeks ago, and they will change as we catch up administratively until the end of our reporting year, which is called R14. So we set ourselves high standards and we have some deliberately stretching targets. We've not reached them, but we're moving in the right direction. So in our adult skills curriculum, we've made some great progress this year. So a 3% improvement in retention, a 4% increase in pass rate. So that's good news. So I think overall, we are in a good position financially. It's important to say that. but we want to reach more learners, and we want to make it easier for learners to book on a course. We want to keep our costs low for those who may need to pay in the future, but develop a value for money offer that is attractive and grows that learner base. And we need to manage more effectively our paperwork to support our learners and our finances. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a useful session with the extended leadership team where we looked back at some of the challenges of the year that's gone by and some of the successes and how we work better going forward. We've already talked about the dashboard as one means of doing that. But we need to better deliver our mission and reach more learners. So we've invited Tracy, Lois and Nav to share those reflections with you. So I think I'm going to Tracy first to share reflections from her first year at the WEA.
My name is Tracy Holford and I'm the Head of Financial Planning Analysis within the finance team. I joined the WEA last October and I'd like to share with you my first year with the charity. This graph represents how confident I felt over the year. You can see clearly that there have been ups and downs. At day one, I was ready for the new challenge ahead, but I'd never led a large team before, so I was a bit apprehensive. In the first few weeks, I started to learn about the charity and get into the role. However, within my first month, I had my first big challenge. 3 people in my team resigned. This not only impacted the time I could spend learning my role due to the amount of recruitment I had to do, it also affected the team as a whole. They were obviously sad to lose their colleagues, but they also had to take on an additional workload as we shared out the work of those who were leaving. Over the following months, it felt like it was a constant challenge. Recruitment was taking up a lot of my time. I was still trying to work out how the systems and processes worked, and all the spreadsheets I opened contained numbers I couldn't reconcile. It was immensely frustrating. The new year came and things started to look up. In February, I had my first highlight. I organised a team meeting in Leeds so our team could get to know each other, and there were a lot of new faces to learn. And I wanted to set out my expectations of what a business partnering team should strive for. I also had my own eureka moment where all my spreadsheets started to make sense and I could recognise and reconcile the numbers. This was a real boost to my confidence. And then I continued to learn and grow my understanding of the charity, its systems and processes. As many of you are aware, we started the budget process in March, and by May I had my second highlight. All the work that you and your teams did for the budget came together as I had to present to the leadership team. This was a little scary for me, as with no finance director at that point to give me any guidance on how things were usually done, it was down to me to make the finances make sense. The meeting was a real success, and dare I even say I enjoyed it. This meeting really gave me the confidence that I actually knew what I was doing, and what I was doing was heading in the right direction. Each day, my confidence continues to grow and I learn things daily. Obviously, I have bad days too, but who doesn't? Reflecting on my graph, it looks a lot like many change management graphs, one which shows things often get worse before they get better. May that be a new job you are learning or a new system or process change. It's prepared me for what is coming in 2023 and the new finance system that we are going to be implementing. I'm excited for the positive change it will bring to the finance team as a whole, making us more efficient and give us more time to really add values to your teams. But I know there will be challenges along the way. I'm also looking forward to working with a full team. My team have been amazing. Those who have been here for years have supported all as newbies that have joined, answering our questions and explaining things to us more than once. I want to thank them for their ongoing hard work through what has been a challenging year for all of us. We are a business partnering team and we're looking forward to supporting all your teams in the coming year, whatever challenges we may face. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Good morning, everybody. My name's Lois. I'm the Head of Region for South West, and I'm also covering the Greater London and Thames Valley team. Together with my colleague Nav, who's the Head of Regions for the Midlands, we're going to be doing a bit of a double act for the next couple of minutes, looking at some of our reflections of the last academic year. So starting off with some challenges, this is from an education perspective, but it probably rings true across the association for some. So we knew that last year was going to be hard, and as much as we hated WEMIS, we had moulded our ways of working within it, and it was going to be challenging moving to a new system. As an education management team, we wanted to use the digital transformation to improve how we went about IAG, which is information, advice and guidance, managing our paperwork and supporting our learners. But I don't think everybody really understood the scale of change. It was not just learning a new database. In addition to this, there were 3 things in particular that stood out that meant the pace of change was more challenging. So these were, we knew that some of our learners were going to struggle with the online process, but not really the scale of how many learners found that difficult. Particularly, uploading evidence was confusing for far more people than we thought. The technical issues that didn't work first time round or as expected meant that we needed immediate development. And the combination of these meant that our ways of working had to continuously evolve and at quite a rapid pace. It was really tricky with everybody's limited resource to keep up with the comms, the guidance materials and the new expectations. And sometimes this pace of change felt excruciating, but we did it and we all keep going. That's because in times of trouble, we all kept together as a team and pulled together, and we did it with our learners in our heart. So just moving on to the success now.
Lovely, thank you, Lois. Now Lois has covered the pain, I get to focus on the gains. So you've already heard about improvements in progression and retention. There's still clearly work to do, and these can be better if we're tighter with returning our registers and ensuring we mark those achievements and progressions timely and accurately. I'll focus on developments in the area of curriculum. So this year our curriculum planning was completely focused on local need. We trawled ALSITs, MCA plans, studied demographics, spoke to employers, understood in detail our local communities and residents, and listened to our branches. We made steps to a slightly smaller, more focused curriculum that would better support our learners to succeed and progress. Within that tighter curriculum, we delivered the planned growth in skills provision. It is this curriculum that will equip learners with the tools, skills and vocational knowledge to enable social mobility, support their children, communities and ensure they benefit from equitable economic growth. We've also attracted new funding through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, multiplied and grew and extended contracts with the help from our colleagues in business development. Our HR colleagues have supported us closely, and we've changed the way we recruit tutors, making the most of the talent we already have on our books. The heads of education are looking forward to the year ahead. Let me tell you why. So, I'll start looking back to why we were so excited by the prospect of our new student record system. It genuinely can provide the solid infrastructure to deliver the improvements we wanted. So it will support us to better manage our learner journey, ensuring learners are given the robust IAG they need to identify the right course, level and progression for them. It will give us better management information so we make sure no learner stalls their application or drops off their learner journey. We can keep track of registers and the recording of achievements so we don't ever fall behind. And we have greater visibility and we can use the data to inform our decision making on curriculum performance. Whilst it's inevitable, it will continue to be bumpy for a while, we will get there.
Thanks, Nav. So for me, a few more things. I am really looking forward to using the amazing new website that's been created, which means that we can draw more learners into our courses and benefit those that need it most. Secondly, delivering the right curriculum and marketing it in the right way to reach and support those deprived audiences, including men who are particularly hard to reach. We're here for the people with lower school attainment, fewer role models who live in poverty, so we can help lift them out of it and provide the opportunities for them. Finally, by engaging even more effectively with funders and policymakers, locally as well as nationally, we can future-proof access to learning for those who need it most by delivering the right curriculum.
As I keep saying, everybody on this call is absolutely rolling their sleeves up and doing the best job that they can, and you're doing a great job. And the facts and the figures show that. We are in a good position. I know we've got our frustrations. I know we're going through a massively changing period, but we'll get through it. We always do. We always have. We always will. But we'll do that, and it'll be easier for us if we do stick together as one WEA. So yes, challenging, yes, asking each other the difficult questions, but sticking together as one organisation so that we can make that difference. yeah, I'm looking forward to coming out on the regional visits, the Learner Voice events. We've got the Student Award event. So I'll be up and down the country. I'm going on tour up and down the country. So I hope to see as many of you as possible sort of physically in those meetings. That'd be nice. And finally, we've just, we've done some great work in terms of the marketing team. People may have seen that. I think it's the video that we've just launched on social media that Miss Barr's going to play for us. If you do use social media, it is absolutely worth sharing this across your networks. I think it is inspirational. There's a 1 minute clip that we're showing you here, and then the extended version's only 3 minutes. So it's a legitimate use of your time. I'd encourage you to grab a brew, grab a cup of tea, sit and listen to the 3 minute long video. We'll play you a minute now, and it just reminds us. I think it's
hello. My name's Jamie.
My name is Jane. My name is Lourdes Abdulaziz.
My name's James. I'm a WEA learner.
I'm studying now employment skills course.
I'm on the WEA digital skills course.
Today is the celebration cakes on a budget.
I'm doing social care level 1.
Level 1, we're in preparation community interpreting. I've increased my skills and it's given me more confidence.
Well, I couldn't hold the mouse when I first. I was a bag of nerves. I was shaking like that. Now it's like I'm a lot more confident.
I learned how to prepare myself for job interview and how to be positive in every situation.
There's something magical about it. There's something about the ethos and the energy of WEA which is truly inclusive.
There are so many online and in-person courses for adults to choose from.
This is a beautiful community of lovely teachers that they will give you the support you need to focus on your career and find the place in this world that you deserve.
So thanks Miss Barr. Thanks again to everyone that's on the call. I know we've overrun slightly, but great to see everybody. Have a great week, and as I say, I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in those physical meetings that we'll have towards the end of this year. So thank you.